Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, this is Station. I am ready for the event.
Please call Station for a voice check.
Station, this is Jeffrey Kluger with Time Magazine. How do you hear me?
Hello, I have you loud and clear. How me?
Loud and clear. Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate it. So I will just jump in.
Thank you. I'm excited to speak with you today.
Excellent. You are the first Native American woman in space and the first woman to command a Crew Dragon spacecraft. Tell me a little bit about the significance of that boundary-breaking status.
Well, I think it's very exciting, and to be honest, it makes me feel very proud. I think of the generations that came before me and the obstacles and the challenges that people had to overcome that helped pave the way for my path and open up a lot of opportunities for me. I was fortunate enough to have some great role models in the military, in aviation, and certainly at NASA. And I'm really proud and humbled to follow in their footsteps and hopefully be a mentor and a role model to the younger generation.
Even after all of this time, women represent just 12% of all the people who have ever been in space. Do you feel a special role model responsibility to women and girls, partly for that reason?
Absolutely. I think in general you hope to be a role model for all people, but specifically I hope that young women can connect perhaps with me and my specific journey, and maybe they see a little bit of themselves in me, and that will give them the inspiration and the courage that they need to follow their dreams. I know that they at NASA we have definitely have a great history of women that have been breaking barriers and exploring space, and I definitely looked towards them for motivation and guidance throughout my career.
Talk to me a little bit, if you would, about the overview effect, the experience of looking down on Earth from orbit. Obviously, portions of the planet are war-torn at the moment, and yet none of that is visible from space. How does that change your perspective on the world?
It is really amazing when you look out the cupola windows and you see our planet Earth. You know, at first, if you take a quick glance, it looks just like you've seen in pictures or movies. But if you pause and you live in the moment for a little bit and you take some time to appreciate and just watch the planet move by at a remarkable speed, you can see all spectrums of color. You can see the weather changing. You can see what I used to think to be far off, distant lands pass over you, or they'll pass underneath you in the matter of minutes. It really, really gives you the perspective of how small and fragile our planet is, and really just how united we are on this one little globe. As you look up and you see the horizon, very quickly, that beautiful blue fades into the blackest of black that you've ever seen. And it gives you this incredible feeling of alone in the universe, but then together and united with our planet. And so I hope that that perspective can be shared with more people throughout the world, and maybe that's something that will help to unite us as a human race.
How can we share that, since so few of us will ever get the opportunity to go to space? How can the rest of us have some sense, even some flicker of the overview effect?
Well, I think that's changing very rapidly. With the commercialization of low Earth orbit, we're already seeing people, astronauts, fly into space that are not government NASA astronauts. And I think that you're going to see the explosion of a population of space-going people. And hopefully we can share that. That may be journalists, that may be poets, certainly scientists and engineers that are able to travel into low Earth orbit for that effect. That's just the beginning, though, of our exploration. You know, with the Artemis mission, we've already have Orion going around the moon. And so I think we're really on a cusp of this paradigm shift where you will see people leaving the planet in a higher rate, and hopefully that will grow exponentially.
You anticipated my next question by mentioning Artemis. Do you see a future for yourself post-space station in the Artemis program? Is that something you're aspiring towards?
Absolutely. I think everybody at NASA is excited to be a part of the Artemis program. I know here on board the station, they'll upload some of the photographs that Orion has taken of the moon and with planet Earth in the background. It is just incredible. It's really exciting, and it just invigorates, I think, the entire team. Folks on the ground have learned so much, and they're really having an incredible mission. I think we'll have a great future ahead of us with future follow-on Artemis missions. But again, that's just the beginning, right? The moon is a stepping stone for our exploration to Mars. So I hope that everyone at NASA and people throughout the world are invigorated by this exploration, and that they want to be a part of the Artemis mission and part of human exploration into deep space.
You obviously keep a very busy schedule aboard the space station. My understanding is that there are about 200 different experiments that are being conducted during your 6-month rotation. Can you tell me a bit about some of the science you're working on?
Absolutely. We've had 2 visiting cargo spacecraft dock recently, Cygnus and SpaceX 26, and they brought tons of science on board. Just this morning, I was testing out the light system that we'll use to grow dwarf tomatoes in space. We'll grow the tomatoes looking at different light sources and different fertilizers to see how that affects the growth and the taste of these tomatoes. In order to do so, we in fact will get to taste the tomatoes once they have grown. We also have some science on board. One in particular that I'm excited about is the biofabrication facility, and this is literally printing 3D human cells, which to me is just incredible. That science, because we're in microgravity, we can print those cells and do research without the effects of 1G on Earth. Not only will this benefit us in exploration into deep space, but it also will benefit humans back on Earth. And so I think that kind of the connection of both of those gets me very excited to be a part of this mission.
Before coming to NASA, you were an active pilot with the Marine Corps, and you flew 47 missions in both Iraq and Afghanistan. How did that kind of experience help prepare you for the experience you're living now?
Yes, I'm still active duty Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps has given me such a solid foundation in a couple of areas. One, certainly mission accomplishment. That is the all end goal of everything that we do. And so that trails into Flying Dragon, that's living an Expedition 68 on board the International Space Station. It keeps you focused on the big picture, and so that you can go throughout your day to accomplish that mission. Also, specifically flying Hornets, I think that really teaches you compartmentalization, and that is huge. That's huge when you launch in a spacecraft. That's huge when you're on board the International Space Station. Sometimes you're doing things that are time critical. That have dire consequences if things don't go properly. So you really need to be able to focus on precisely what you're doing and execute your goal. Some things might not go wrong. You might make an error. And if you do so, you need to be able to compartmentalize that, learn from it, and move along. And so this was instilled in me in my early days going through the basic school, in the Marine Corps, and certainly throughout my career.
And Finally, tell me a little bit about, you mentioned tomatoes. Tell me a little bit about the food aboard the space station. How is the fare compared to, say, the earlier days of the space program?
Oh, my goodness, leaps and bounds better. I can't imagine the early days of the space program. We're a little spoiled up here, to be honest. We have a pretty good variety of food, and also on these cargo vehicles, they can put some fresh food on board that doesn't have the shelf life for the regular menu on board the International Space Station. So we have some treats such as mango, avocado, cheese, and some meats that also can only last a month or so. So we were grateful for that, especially in time for Thanksgiving and the upcoming holidays.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the Time magazine portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from CNN this morning.
Hi there, this is Kristen Fisher from CNN. Can you hear me?
Hi, I have you loud and clear. How me?
Great. Well, thank you so much for talking to us. I believe, are we good to go?
I'm looking forward to speaking with you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for talking to us today. And I'd love to start by getting kind of your play-by-play of what it was like on the day that Artemis launched, SLS and Orion, for that Artemis 1 mission. Were you able to watch it? What were you doing? And if you were able to see it, what was it like?
It was such an exciting day, I think, for the entire world, I hope. We had a spacewalk the day prior, so we were actually quite busy, and it was a long day executing some modifications to station in order to get it ready for a new solar array that we will be putting out on Saturday. And Artemis launched pretty early in the morning. We had a small window where we were hoping to actually see the spacecraft, but unfortunately we didn't have a good view and weren't able to take any photos. So we've been following along very closely, though. The ground has uplinked some amazing photographs from Orion with the moon and the Earth in the background, and we're hoping when Orion comes back to Earth, we'll get a glimpse of that incredible, incredible spacecraft.
You know, I don't have to tell you that, you know, historically speaking, the astronauts tend to be the ones that get all the glory. But on the morning of the Artemis launch, it was a team of 3 men, the Red Crew, who kind of came in and saved the day, literally by tightening some nuts and bolts on the rocket itself. Wondering what you thought about their actions that day and kind of the role that the support team plays into pulling off a mission like this.
Oh, I think it's just incredible. And, you know, we have a huge team of folks at NASA that really make everything happen. You're right. A lot of times it's the astronauts that are in front of the camera or communicating to the public. But it's really important to understand it's the team of people in mission control. It's the program managers. It's the engineers. It's the technicians that are out there that are putting the spacecraft together, that are running it through all of our tests, that come in the last minute and make those fixes and make those corrections so that we can launch and be successful. It's really an effort of thousands and thousands of people.
So Artemis 1 did launch. It has been performing, the Orion capsule's been performing, unbelievably well. Should be leaving the distant retrograde orbit today. And, you know, if all goes well, they should be assigning the first crew for Artemis 2 within the next few months or so. Wondering if you are hoping to be assigned to one of those first Artemis crews.
Absolutely. I think everybody's excited to be a part of the Artemis program, whether that be on the crew, in a support role, doing some of the testing and the development. I think it'll be very exciting when we have a crew assigned, and they'll be able to focus specifically on that mission and run Orion through all the tests and the integrations that are ongoing. The good news is, though, that the entire astronaut corps and actually all of NASA will be involved in a lot of those testing. Hopefully you see multiple Artemis missions here in the near future. And so we have a very bright future. Specifically what my role will be, I don't know. But I'm telling you, I'm so excited just to be a part of this mission.
Can you help me understand exactly how, you're going to be spending about 6 months up at the space station. How does what you're doing up there help you prepare and train for, the ultimate goal of the Artemis mission, which is getting some boots on the lunar surface?
Absolutely. There's a couple components to it. First, there's the technical component. You need to be able to live and operate and function in space. You learn a lot by doing things that you're trained for in general. So you're trained how to execute procedures, how to do maintenance, how to do a spacewalk. But then it may come down to the specific task of you're fixing a component that you've never laid eyes on before. You need to be able to interpret the procedure, execute the mission, and communicate that to the ground. And so you're really learning a lot of those skills in proximity to Earth with a very little time delay. That'll be very important as we find ourselves on the moon, where we're going to be more autonomous and we won't have potentially the continuous support of the ground, and certainly in our missions to Mars, when we'll be operating without support or a long time delay. The second part of that that's really important is learning to live and work with a diverse group of people, including our international partners. We do that on the International Space Station. It's about the size of a 5-bedroom house, and we have 7 people on board. They come from all different backgrounds, all different nationalities. And we need to be able to live and work together in harmony so that we can be efficient and effective in executing the mission. That will be critical when we have sustained presence on the lunar surface, and certainly when you're looking at a 2-3-year mission to Mars.
For so long, the International Space Station has really been the only game in town in terms of continuous human occupation of low Earth orbit. That all changed a few days ago with China's new space station, and, there's now going to be 2 fully functioning space stations with crews on board and in orbit at the same time. What are your thoughts on being one of the very few NASA astronauts up in space at the time of this sort of historic transition?
You got it right. This is a historic transition. Not only are you seeing other countries really beef up their space programs and have successful launches and platforms in low Earth orbit, but you're also seeing the explosion of commercial industry in low Earth orbit. I think that's a huge point in our stepping stone as humans in the exploration of space. You'll see this population explode, I think, in low Earth orbit of astronauts that are not just government astronauts, but civilians, journalists, scientists, engineers in low Earth orbit. And you'll see a shift, I think, of NASA and our international partners, which we're seeing with the Artemis program, to the moon and Mars. This is evolution, and we are at the cusp of seeing this huge change.
There aren't many people up in space right now. Do you all have any communication with the Chinese taikonauts on their space station?
I have not had any communication with the taikonauts. I'm not sure on those details, but we're definitely following along on their space missions.
I mean, could you ever envision a time when, NASA astronauts are on a Chinese space station, Chinese astronauts are on an international type space station, or do you see those things as staying separate or perhaps outside your jurisdiction?
I think space does amazing things in bringing people together, and I hope that our continued exploration will work to unite the entire planet, not only in the exploration of space, but in other endeavors on Earth.
Question. We're heading into December 1st today. We're heading into the holidays, the new year. I have one final question, and that is, aside from your launch, what was your #1 space story of the year? Artemis, Webb, DART, there's been so many. What's your top space story of the year?
Wow, I mean, launch definitely beats it all. Day one on International Space Station. What I think so far has been, we've had one on board where Josh and Frank went out the door, and Koichi and I were the ground IVs, getting them all suited up, going through all their checks, stuffing them in the airlock. You trained for years and years to execute these tasks. And when you take that valve and you turn it to take them to vacuum, it's a pretty incredible moment. And you think, this is one of the craziest things that human beings ever do. And you also think this is one of the most incredible things that human beings ever do. So we're looking forward to another spacewalk on Saturday, and it's just great to see all of the training that we've had as a crew really come together, so then we can execute, get the spacewalks done, get the upgrades to the solar arrays complete, and continue on with some really cool science with part of Expedition 68.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and since it is December 1st, I'm going to be one of the first to wish you a very happy holiday season up aboard the International Space Station.
Wonderful. It was great speaking with you, and happy holidays back on planet Earth.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Thank you to all the participants from Time Magazine and CNN this morning.
Station copies.
Station,
Thanks.
we are now resuming operational audio communications.